Behind us, we have the Dodge Viper ACR, the Ford Mustang GT350R, and the Porsche 911 GT3 RS. That's enough R's for a pirate convention, but today we're going to find out which one is best on the track. I'll start with the Viper. It has an 8.4-liter V10, putting out 645 horsepower and 600 pound-feet of torque in a package that weighs just 3,300 pounds. That, frankly, is insane.
That is insane, but I have myself a slice of Germany with this, the Porsche 911 GT3 RS, Porsche's very own road legal track monster thing. It's pushing out 493 horsepower and 339 pounds and feet, and it weighs just 3,130 pounds.
And slotting in quite nicely between the two is the Ford Mustang GT350R. It's pretty much the most macho Mustang that you can buy today. A 5.2-liter V8 is kicking out 562 horsepower, 429 pound-feet of torque, and for those of you paying attention, that is more power than the Porsche. But of course, it's a Mustang, so I got a bit of a weight penalty.
Now we'll hit the track in anger with all three of these cars, but first, let's dig into some of the details.
Truth be told, we're all just a little petrified of this Dodge Viper ACR, and really, can you blame us?
My voice is a little higher than it was before. You can blame the 6-point harness, which is not the most comfortable thing in the world. But when you are driving on the street, you can just use the normal 3-point harness if you want to.
First things first, it's noisy. This doesn't feel like a sensible car. This is insane. It's so loud, and it's so fast, and it grips so hard. It makes pretty much half its body weight in downforce thanks to the enormous wing on the back.
And there's all kinds of crazy aero bits in this thing to keep it planted and to keep you from turning back assward on the track, right? So I've got a front splitter, a rear splitter, I've got some louvers over the wheels, as well as these crazy like dive planes in the front, and all of that's just to give you more aero. And we're not even talking about the tires. I mean, these tires are massive.
The wing is 6'4". That's as big as a person. I can have a nap on that and still have room to stretch.
This 8.4-liter engine has got 10 screaming cylinders, which is going to bring this guy to 60 in a scant 3.3 seconds and a top speed of 177 miles an hour.
The interior is Spartan, to say the least. This is not exactly the most road-friendly car in the world. In fact, just going from third to second requires basically winning an arm wrestling match.
It's not a forgiving car at all. You have to work with it. You have to know what you're doing. There are traction settings and it'll let you play with it to your heart's content. But really, you have to know with this thing. Be gentle in and then you can power it out because the aero will do all the work and fire you down. And it'll grip and grip and grip. And you get a big grin on your face. But by the end of it, you are absolutely exhausted.
Now, when it comes to driving modes, there aren't any. All of your adjustability is done with the suspension and the aero. So if you don't like how it rides, if you don't like what the steering is, too bad.
And when you do get into third gear, the shift ball actually blocks half of the controls here in the center console, so that's a little bit of an unfortunate layout. We've got Chrysler's CNET system, which is a passable infotainment system. It's got navigation, it's got connectivity for apps, no Android Auto or CarPlay, unfortunately. And the speaker system in this car is, frankly, it's one of the worst that I have ever heard in any car ever, but that's okay, because we got something that makes a little bit better noise under the hood.
Now, our test model here comes in at a little bit more than the base price, $135,000, and that includes a fancy paint job, the gas guzzler tax, as well as some carbon fiber bracing.
It's a Viper, man. It's treat it with respect, and you'll love it. Mess around with it, underestimate its abilities. Woe betide you.
Stepping out of the Viper and into the Porsche, and it's a pretty big leap forward in terms of fit and finish. The materials are miles better here. We've got lots of nice Alcantara and leather and carbon fiber everywhere, although there are a whole lot of buttons. This is Porsche's last generation infotainment system, so we've got toggles and switches and buttons all over the place for everything, which means you can control everything with a physical control, but sometimes finding it can be a little bit of a challenge. The infotainment system itself is, again, a little bit dated. It's functional, but not that exciting.
Now this, the GT3 RS, which is good for 493 brake horsepower, now that's 500 horsepower to those of us here in America, and 339 pound-feet of torque.
This is a motorsport-inspired car. It's built by magicians at Porsche. This is 50 years of work, motorsport heritage, all boiled in to one road car. The most hardcore Porsche you can buy.
Now, this guy is the lightest of our three rivals, scooting to 60 miles an hour in 3.1 seconds with a top speed of 193 miles an hour.
It's fast, it's light, it's powerful, it has no rear seats at all, there's lightweight everything everywhere, which before you even get into the car makes you feel like a bit of a hero, because you can say, well, mine's the lightweight one with the big wing.
The Germans have made a lot of concession for weight, and that includes a carbon fiber reinforced hood, deck lid, spoiler, and wing, and it's got a little bit of aero goodies too, and with some vents here on the front as well as side vents, which is going to scoop the air in and keep the whole thing cool.
The big wing actually does put down a ton of downforce too, which means the quicker you go, the faster it gets, which I rather like.
But make no mistake, this is not just a straight line dragster, right? This is a Porsche. It's a corner carver. It's got this really cool rear wheel steering system. So the rear tires, which are wrapped in these massive, like 325/40 tires, when you're at speeds of under 50 miles an hour, those are going to steer in the opposite direction to kind of get you into a tighter line. But when you're at speeds of over 50 miles an hour, they're going to steer in the same direction to kind of crab walk you along.
You know exactly where the car's pointed. You can feel the tarmac beneath the front wheels. So you have every confidence in what the car can do. So you can be going along at 70 miles an hour, dab a brake, in you go, you think you're going too hot. No, not going in too hot, you just go really fast around a corner.
It's also the last generation PCM here, which means the navigation is a little bit clunky to use. The voice recognition is not great, but it is overall functional, and is connected to what is far and away the best sound system out of these three cars.
Now, a lot of people, what they don't like about the GT3 RS and the current 911 GT3s is the gearbox. They don't like the fact it's a PDK. They think, oh, you should have a driver's car, it should be a manual, it should be proper. Now, while yes, not changing my own gears does remove a little bit from the experience, it's a smooth, slick gearbox that works beautifully well. Porsche does make the best automatic gearbox, hands down. It's brilliant. That hollow house, you drop it down and it will rev to 9,000. Oh, it sounds so good!
It does sound pretty alright. Who needs a sound system anyway?
And then brake. Brake as hard as you can. This one's fitted with the carbon composite brakes, and then you can turn in with all of the grip and fire yourself down a straight with a cacophony of happiness and joy.
These seats, although reasonably comfortable, they sit you absolutely bolt upright, and they do not adjust for recline. You can go forward and backward and up and down a little bit, but not much. However, you can be comforted knowing that these seats came straight out of the 918 hypercar.
Now, when it comes to price, this baby starts at $175,000. That's right, but no, we here at Roadshow, we give you the best. So with the fancy paint job, better brakes, a front axle lift system, and this awesome orange interior, that goes up to $204,000 for this guy. And you know what? I want it.
GT3 RS isn't just fun, It's an absolute joy. It's a beast, it's a weapon. On the road, yeah, it might be a bit noisy, but man, on the track, I just want to stay in it. I want to stay in it and drive around all day, but I'll get told off by the producers. So I've got to go in now and drive something else. What a shame. Right, Ford, you are the cheapest, you have the second largest power output, you have the second largest engine, and you have easily the lairiest paint job here. So, are you fun? Well, let's find out. You're chuffing quick, that's for sure. And very, very noisy.
Being the least expensive option by far, you'd expect it to feel a little bit low rent in here. And there certainly are some cheap touches. These plastic toggle switches, for one thing, are very, very plasticky feeling. And they actually only toggle one way, which is a little bit of a disappointment. Some of the materials are a little bit cheap feeling as well, but overall, this is actually a really nice place to be.
Don't be fooled by the name. The Ford Shelby Mustang GT350R really has nothing to do with Shelby, but it's still a pretty impressive car in its own right. A 5.2 liter V8 flat plane crank engine means that this baby is fast and this baby is loud.
That flat plane crank V8 sounds amazing. It's not a proper burble muscle car. It sounds like something out of Italy.
Gt3 is the best infotainment system of the three by far. It's got the most features. Doesn't have Android Auto, which as an Android user for me is a little bit of a bummer. But overall, the app integration is nice and everything is much more responsive and much more intuitive than in the other systems.
Now at 3,600 pounds, this is the heaviest car in our rival, so Ford has done quite a bit of weight saving. Comes standard with no air conditioning, no rear seat, no backup camera, there's not even carpet in the trunk. And with carbon fiber wheels, that's saving 13 pounds at all four corners.
It's quite heavy in this company, but it hides it beautifully. Because the steering, even in track mode, is super light. The suspension manages to hide any body roll, so it feels pretty damn flat, only going around a bend. That means you can go around bends very, very quickly.
Not to be outdone by the competition, the GT350R does have a carbon fiber wing as well as bits of aero in the front because, you know, form is definitely following function on this car.
The gearbox, you can only have this with a manual, which means it's a proper car for proper drivers if you want to, you know, call yourself a proper driver.
But by far the best part of being in this car, the seats. They are a great mix of comfort and support out here on the track. They're phenomenally supportive, but they're actually quite comfortable. My first experience in this car was a 2-hour highway crawl, and I didn't really feel uncomfortable at all at that whole point. The suspension actually will go to a nice soft setting, and the exhaust even quiets down quite a bit on the road too. So if you need to do a little bit of a long commute to get to the racetrack, this isn't a bad place to do it.
It corners flat, it goes fast, and it sounds absolutely incredible. The only thing about it that detracts from the fun, the only thing, is the steering. It's smooth, but it just feels too artificial. At
3.5 seconds, the Mustang is the slowest to 60 of our rivals, but it is also the most affordable, coming in at just over $62,000.
As a package for the money, is brilliant. Like what you get is a serious car. Mind-blowingly powerful, the noise, the sensation you get with it, it makes you feel so good. But compared to the others, are the others worth the extra money?
Well, that was a little bit of fun, these three cars, I think. What do you think?
Just a tiny little bit.
Yeah?
It was most entertaining.
It was, and it was a little bit scary at times, particularly in the left seat of this car. Alex, what'd you think of the Viper?
Okay, so I'm just going to do the rundown. It's uncomfortable, you can't see out of it, it's hot, the stereo's rubbish, and it's kind of terrifying on the road. But on the track, I was just screaming the whole way around. It was hilarious. It's just a wall of noise and sound, and you can bung it into a corner. Oh, it's a bit tasty.
Yeah, but you really need to get past the reputation of it, right? And look at it. It just looks so intimidating. But then once you do and you realize that you can just dive into this corner, point it, and accelerate out like a madman, and it's kind of a blast.
And the brakes are absolutely phenomenal. But the best part of the Viper for me is, you know, that if you get a clean lap in this thing, if you really get everything right, it's you who got everything right, because there are traction control and a few other assists in there, but ultimately it's up to you to really get the most out of that car. And it takes a strong right arm on that shifter and a strong left leg on that clutch, and it's a beast. But on the road, as you mentioned, maybe a little too compromised to take the crown today, which takes us to the Mustang, which I think is a little bit more of an all-rounder, no?
Yeah, I mean, for 60 grand, this thing is a bargain. The amount of power that you get with this, it's comfortable on the road, it's a beast in a straight line, and you know, it's not so bad in the turns.
It is really fun. That engine.
Yes,
Come
the
on.
noise.
The flat plane crank.
Noise.
It sounds like it should come from Italy. It sounds like something you get in a Ferrari, and the acceleration is maddening. The only letdown? Steering.
Yeah.
It's just not good enough.
Yeah, it is a little big.
But if you're used to a normal Mustang, this feels night and day different, and it is absolutely incredibly good value. I mean, I don't want to harp on the value too much, but this is almost a quarter the cost of some of the other cars here, and it's actually pretty close to being the overall winner. But I don't think it is quite the best car here. Not quite.
It's that.
Yeah, the orange one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the Porsche 911 GT3 RS. What an amazing car. I mean, I got into this and I was a little intimidated just because of the name, but then when you get out there, it's actually quite easy to drive, and that rear steering saved my butt so many times.
It is so rewarding. The steering is weak in that, it's amazing in that. Complain all you want about electromechanical nonsense, but
That's it. Hey, but you know what's interesting is that we have manual transmission, PDK, and we've been harping about how much we love manuals, and then we love this one more than the manuals.
well, it showed itself in the drag race.
Right.
Because I was expecting the Porsche to lose against the Viper, because it's got more than twice the engine and it's monstrously fast, down on torque, down on power, everything. But because Tim had to work it himself and I had launch control and he had to change gear and I didn't, and it just flew. I could keep up with him. If it was a rolling start though, I don't think the outcome would have been the same.
It was pretty remarkable to go race after race after race to try to find a winner, and it was just neck and neck every time. Whoever got the cleanest launch won every single time. It was remarkable how close these two were, but yeah, absolutely. I was working pretty hard to get that thing off the line in a clean way. When you're on the track in that thing, you can focus so much on driving clean lines and really focus on improving yourself. Whereas this is like a full body workout, basically. You've got to get everything right, mentally, physically, everything else, to really get a good lap out of that. So, amazing car, amazing car.
Amazingest car.
Amazingest car. You gotta say.
Yeah.
You gotta say. The winner, Roadshow Rivals, is the Porsche 911 GT3 RS.